We recently passed 100 days of the Biden administration, and if there is one theme that has come about from all of his transportation announcements, it is this: Uncle Joe wants you to drive an EV. All right, let's look at what has gone down so far. On January 25th, only days into his administration, Biden signed an executive order calling for all of the government fleets to be converted to EV. That's 645,000 vehicles that will make the switch to electron power. Now, there are myriad reasons here, right? I mean, Biden wants to reduce emissions, of course, but he also wants to set an example for the general public. See, EVs ain't all bad. Now, if American car companies happen to sell a bunch of EVs in the process, then hey, bonus. And I, for one, would love to see a couple of Rivian R1Ts or the upcoming electric Ford F-150 out there doing government car things, whatever they do. However, we've already got some problems here, namely with the US Post Office. They've ordered a new fleet of vehicles, but only 10% of those are supposed to be electric, so stay tuned to see how that turns out. We've also seen Democratic senators introduce the Green Act, which would allow EV buyers a $7,000 tax credit on next year's taxes, and it gives automakers a new credit ceiling of 600,000 vehicles. Now, what's really cool is that every manufacturer would start from zero under the Green Act. So let's say that Ford has already sold 100,000 EVs. Well, those sales don't count under the Green Act. Everybody gets a clean slate. So that all sounds great, right? Well, Biden has also introduced an infrastructure plan that calls for direct rebates on EVs. That's right, cash money in your pocket if you buy an EV. Now, we don't know how much the rebate will be, but Biden has budgeted $100 billion. Now, we don't know if either of these plans are going to pass, and if they do, if consumers would get a choice between a direct cash rebate or a future tax credit. Now, if it were me, I like instant gratification, so even if my tax credit is more, I want my money now. But what about you? Tell me in the comments. Future tax credit or money in your pocket now? The infrastructure plan would also throw billions of dollars at companies to retool their factories to start producing EV batteries. But look, EVs don't mean anything and batteries don't mean anything if we can't charge them. So Biden's infrastructure plan calls for 500,000 EV charging stations to come online by 2030. I mean, that's great and all, but we really need provisions for people to charge at home, and we have to update the grid in order to handle it all. I mean, I live in California and we can't even handle all the power in the summer, so can we just bring our grid up to the 21st century, please? Put that in the infrastructure plan. And speaking of California, Biden's Department of Transportation is considering giving California back the right to set its own emission standards, something that was taken away by the Trump administration. As the most populous state in the union, California buys a lot of cars, and by holding automakers to a higher standard, the hope is that those standards trickle down to the rest of the states. I mean, you know what they say, as goes California, so goes the nation. Similarly, the Biden administration will reveal new fuel economy numbers and emission regulations by July. Under President Trump, the corporate average fuel economy, or CAFE standards, was lowered to 40.4 miles per gallon. That's way down from the Obama administration's rule of 54 miles per gallon. Automakers expect Biden's number to be somewhere in between, but some, Ford specifically, wants the California numbers mentioned before to be used as a blueprint for the rest of the nation. Further, EPA head Michael S. Regan has said that the new regulations need to meet the climate crisis, so I would expect those numbers to be pretty darn strict. Finally, let's talk about this shortage of semiconductor chips. I know it's not glamorous, but hey, pretty much every new car that's got a fancy pants infotainment system and advanced driver's aids has got them, so it is a problem for the US. Now, Biden has issued a review of the US supply chain to figure out what went wrong, to fix it, and to avoid any shortages in the future. But right now, only 12% of the semiconductor chips are actually made here in the US, and some people, like Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, they think that this shortage is going to last for years. I really hope not, because I want to see that new Bronco and I want to see it out on the trails. Well, to sum it up, it looks like the Biden administration is going all in on electric vehicles. On a personal note, look, I love a high horsepower V8 just as much as the next gal, but EVs are really fun to drive with their low center of gravity and their instant torque. So don't look at EVs as the end of enthusiast cars, look at them as something new to get excited about.